Hey guys, welcome back to London Detective Mysteria, where we are in the epilogue section to do Watson's epilogue, Crossing the Stars of Dawn. You guys ready for older, taller Watson? Because I sure am not. Let's get into it. I almost said amant, but amant isn't a word. I stopped myself just in time. The Walworth district in the center of London. Oh, creepy. Fog hung thick in the air of the graveyard, and the darkness served only to make it that much more eerie. My hands were covered in sweat, a lantern shaking from side to side in one of them. Its light almost made the gravestones look as though they were wriggling and alive. This should be the spot, but... I raised the lantern up into the air and timidly surveyed my surroundings. Then... What was that? I heard something from behind one of the gravestones. A cold sweat ran down my back. I took a single breath and drew closer to where the sound had come from. Ah! All of a sudden, a black shadow jumped out of the darkness. Illuminated by my lamp, its cape was covered in dark red stains. Calm down. I need to step back and calm down. I felt an unpleasant, warm sensation on my cheek, almost as if a blood-covered hand was touching me.
Are you okay, Emily?
What are you guys doing? Is it Halloween already? Jack came back! You ruined the scare stuff, Watson. Before I knew it, Watson had appeared out of nowhere and taken me tightly into his arms.
And just what do you think you're doing, Watson?
What is happening here? Even Hudson is here? Alright, I love this picture. It's great. Oh, come on! You're supposed to be scaring her, not jumping out and hugging her! In front of all of us, too!
I'm sorry. I just did it without thinking.
Two people embracing one another in a graveyard at night. I could hardly think of something more inappropriate and shameful.
I suppose it's no surprise, though. When it comes to Emily, Watson always loses sight of everything else.
You're right. He's like a big dog rushing over to his master. One in need of some disciplining, too.
But I think he's rather brave, rushing right to her aid like that.
Do you lot have nothing better to do with your time than test the courage in a graveyard?
You're such a good friend to be accompanying us if you think this is a waste of time. I'm surprised. Did something happen to you while you were off school?
Interesting. Now, it's all in good fun. Besides, Mr. Mackenzie gave us a perfectly good reason to be doing this. It's to toughen us up as detectives.
Back when I was younger, I used to often take part in tests of courage in graveyards. But I was always one of the ones doing the scaring. I'd always get scared and lonely when I was waiting for the others to come. One time, when one of my friends finally arrived, I was so happy that I jumped out at them and made them faint.
Haha! My special Kuniaku was pretty awesome though, huh? I take it that was touched my cheek earlier then.
I apologize on his behalf, Miss Whiteley. I only wish that he could be so enthusiastic about his studies.
Still, that was quite the screech earlier. It was so loud that I could see us getting noise complaints from the dead, Miss Scream.
Oh, hush you. Oh, I'm so ashamed.
Well, the task was to sign the note hidden in the graveyard and decode the cipher indicating a hidden location all on her own, so...
Considering Watson jumped in before she could, I think Emily gets a fail here. Yes, you're right. She did so well, though.
I just got lost, fell over, and then gave up.
Well, that's on brand for you, I guess. Is this whole episode gonna be about, like, you know, I am capable of taking care of myself too, Watson.
Ugh. I'm so sorry, Emily. It's my fault you failed.
Watson gently relaxed his grip on me. He had grown noticeably taller in these past few months, and was even more sturdily built than before. Yes, he's like a full-grown man now. His kind eyes and warm voice were the same as ever, though. Hooray. Albeit both replaced by a look of dejection right now. No, it's my fault for lacking in composure. Besides, I was really relieved when you came for me. Thank you.
You don't need to thank me. I just can't stand back and do nothing when you're scared. I'm sorry, though. I think I probably hugged you a bit too tightly. I didn't hurt you, did I?
I'm fine. You worry too much.
Those two really are something. I'm amazed they can be so lovey-dovey even in the middle of a graveyard.
Can I go home now?
Poor Jack. Let the poor boy sleep. The people of London love discussing rumors of ghosts. The ghost ship on the River Thames, the headless lady in St. James's Park, the monk without a foot in the church of St. Bartholomew. That poor monk. Supposedly, the shops of Piccadilly have seen their goods moved around by a poltergeist, too. There's another new ghost story here. The ghost of Catherine Howard appears in Hampton Court Palace. Thinking of her former lover, she performed a nostalgic dance. That was actually the one ghost I was thinking of when reading through that. I'm like, I wonder if the ghost of Catherine Howard's still kicking around.
The former queen is something of a celebrity among ghost fans, so it's no surprise her name would come up. There have been stories of her appearing in the palace for quite some time. Supposedly, she tried to run away from her executioner in the tower, who had to swing his axe 4 times before she finally died. She must have quite a strong attachment to this world.
4 times? I think that calls into question how good the executioner was at his job, to be honest.
I quite agree. Fear not, though. I would be sure to swiftly slay my target in a single blow.
That's comforting, Pendleton, thank you. Pendleton! I would never ask you to do anything so violent.
You never know what the future holds, my lady. I would never have expected to find you reading such a low-quality magazine, either.
I can't say I'm a fan of rumors like this either, but I do think there is truth to be found among all the lies.
An interesting perspective. I see the experience of crying in the middle of a graveyard has matured you slightly.
I didn't cry. Watson came for me right away, after all.
I'll praise him for coming to your aid right away, but if he can't even stay when told to, he's not even fit to be your guard dog. It's still too early to be leaving you in his care.
Don't speak of him like that! He's not a dog, he's my boyfriend! I couldn't help but feel embarrassed when I realized what I had just said. As if to try and avoid him noticing how red my face had become, I hurriedly started looking through the magazine. But then... Oh! This.
What is it?
Oh, it's nothing. I'd like another cup of tea.
As you wish, my lady.
After I was sure that Pendleton had left the room, I looked once more at the article that had bothered me. Back from hell. The ghost of Colonel Moran appears to terrify the citizens of London. Wait, he died? But he was arrested at Richmond Park and locked away in the Tower of London. All of a sudden, I felt a faint twinge of pain in my left shoulder. Wonder why. I continued reading. He has been frequently sighted in the Bishopsgate ward of London since last month. His blonde hair, military uniform, and hawk-like piercing eyes the same as ever. He swaggers silently through Rose Alley at night, before disappearing without a trace at the end of a blind alley. What could this mean? He couldn't have broken out of the tower, could he? Is he planning something again? Just then, Pendleton returned to the room with my tea.
What about your tea, my lady?
I don't need it anymore, thank you. I want you to get a carriage ready. I need to go and speak to Holmes and Watson about something.
Alright, I'll do it right away.
The carriage quietly proceeded along the streets of London under a grim, cloudy sky. Eventually, we arrived at Baker Street, and desperately suppressing the impatience that I felt, I stepped down onto the pavement.
I didn't expect it to be you in there, Miss Whiteley.
Holmes! What's in all those bags? I turned to face him and caught sight of a number of large sacks in his hands.
Scotland Yard found and seized a large quantity of elixir from an unmanned warehouse in Battersea. They've let me borrow some of it.
Elixir? That's a calming and pain-killing drug that's dangerous and highly addictive, isn't it? Are you sure you should have something like that?
You're aware of it, then. There's no end to the number of people willing to turn to crime to get their hands on some. It's a real problem for Scotland Yard. This is just a very impure powder, but if I can analyze it, I might be able to find out where it came from.
Even so, having this much of it just seems... Is Watson with you, by the way?
I've asked him to carry the rest over. I use my brain 10 times more than he does, so he needs to make up the difference somehow. Anyway, did you want something? As you can see, I'm kind of occupied right now.
No, it's nothing. I was just passing by, so I thought we might all be able to have some tea together, that's all. Don't work Watson too hard, though, Holmes. Why were you mum about that? After saying goodbye to Holmes, I left Baker Street, making my way to the Bishopsgate area of London north of the Thames. The evening streets were lively, full of people who had just finished work. I swear, girl, if you walk down another alley again by yourself, in the dark, in the fog, we're gonna have words. Colonel Morin's ghost was supposed to have been sighted in this area. I was originally going to ask Holmes and Watson for their opinion, but it was possible that Morin could have done something while I was doing so. And if I bring him up to Watson, it's going to remind him of what happened in Richmond Park, and when I was hurt. I know that was a really traumatic experience for him. I don't want to put him through anything like that ever again. So I'm going to get myself in trouble again so he has to rescue me again from the same guy who hurt me in the first place, because that's a much better plan. Good job. Walking along the road, I eventually reached the entrance to Rose Alley, the alleyway that had been mentioned in that article. Unlike in the street I had been following, there barely seemed to be anyone in the alley. It was narrow and dark, too. Just as I finally plucked up the courage to step foot inside, though...
Hello, pretty lady. How about buying some flowers? They're the perfect color for displaying in your room.
What? No,
Right now, they're just 10 pence. I'll even include a pink ribbon, just like yours.
I could only assume this was what people were referring to when they spoke about pushy salespeople. She didn't seem as though she was going to let me leave. What should I do? I feel like if I give in and buy one, she'll squeeze me for every last penny.
Hey.
All of a sudden, I heard a low voice from behind me. Instinctively, I turned around, and there stood... Oh, such low voice.
Oh my! There was me thinking you were just some handsome stranger, but it's you, Watson Jr.
Watson? Is this a friend of yours?
Well, you could say that. Her name's Johnson, and we do owe a bit to her.
Really? I thought I told you to call me Dolly.
Anyway, Johnson, she's with me, so go easy on her, alright?
With you? Oh, she's your girlfriend, is she? Then you've just got to buy some flowers for her. I'll even bring down my price to a shockingly cheap 8 pence.
Huh. You really are a salesperson through and through. Oh.
With a sigh, Watson bought a single bouquet of flowers from her.
Thanks! Oh, and I've got something interesting to tell you, too. You see...
She whispered something in Watson's ear, and his eyes opened wide. Whatever she said seemed to have shocked him.
Well, give my regards to Holmes Jr. Good day, young lady.
After saying goodbye, she disappeared into the crowds, looking in high spirits.
She's actually an informant of ours. She gives all kinds of top-secret info to Holmes and I. But seeing as she's always like that, Holmes never wants to come and see her. So the job falls to me, and every time I come, we end up with more flowers in the office.
An informant? Was what you just whispered to you some kind of top-secret information too, then?
What? Oh, no, that was...
Watson glanced at the bouquet for a moment, then hesitated. He then hurriedly put it away. Where'd you put it? Like in your pocket? Your back pocket?
But never mind that. Why did you not come and talk to me about the Colonel Morin rumor?
How do you...
You met Holmes outside the office, didn't you? When I went back there, he told me and said... There was brown ink in the area between her forefinger and thumb on her left hand. I'm guessing it ended up there when she was turning the pages of a cheap, low-quality magazine. The kind of newspapers from major publishers that Miss Whiteley reads generally use high-quality ink and paper, so the ink doesn't rub off. Brown ink is generally used in mass-market rags instead. I hope she doesn't end up negatively influenced by something she reads in one. I remember that you were trying to look into ghosts and the supernatural to overcome your fear of them. And then when I read that rumor about Colonel Morin myself, it all fell into place.
I just didn't want to get in your way. It seemed like the two of you were really busy.
Is that really the only reason?
Watson had become surprisingly perceptive lately. His calm words and his clear eyes made it seem as though he could see right through me. All of a sudden, a twinge of pain ran through my left shoulder once more. Reflexively, I touched it, then realized what I had done. Oh, Watson, that was...
Your wound just hurt, didn't it?
No, I'm just a little cold, that's all. My wound doesn't hurt at all anymore. There's no mark to be seen either.
But your memories of when you were hurt aren't just going to disappear. Even if there's no visible mark anymore, your body and heart will remember the pain they've been through. Is the reason that you didn't come and talk to me because you were thinking of my feelings?
I couldn't find the words to continue. But on the other hand, I didn't want to try to deceive or lie to him anymore. I didn't want to remind you of when I was hurt. I didn't want to see you suffer. In the end, I put my own feelings ahead of yours.
That's not true, Emily.
Before I could turn my head completely to the ground, Watson had gently put his big hand on it. Yes, we get it, he's bigger. We can see this quite clearly.
I thought the same thing about myself at first. That the only reason I wanted to protect you is because I didn't want myself to be hurt. That I was just trying to pass off my selfishness as selflessness.
That's not true at all. Before I knew it, I was clutching onto his hand tightly. Then...
Yeah. I think exactly the same about you, too. But I want to become stronger. Strong enough that you can feel completely at ease relying on me. Much stronger than I am now. So whenever you need me, you just call right on me. If there's anything I can do to help you, I'll be right there to do it.
His smile and the warmth of his hand clutching my own made the burden on my chest begin to lighten. Thank you. But you're doing more than enough for me already. You must have had work to do for Holmes today, too, yet you're here with me.
Don't worry. I've got a perfect substitute there helping him in my place.
A perfect substitute? Hudson?
Next, I need you to copy down all of the addresses in this address book. Then I need you to organize the documents in the bookcase over there by year. Then...
Aw, Kobayashi! Oh no! I mean, he is kind of a mini Watson.
Hold on a minute, Holmes! I can only take so much in at once!
Kobayashi, you're my acting assistant. You need to be able to handle this much as if it's nothing.
You can't expect that much from me! I'm not your real assistant. I'm just helping out in Watson's place because I happen to be free.
If you're going to help me, you're going to do a good job of it. This will be training for him too, so show no mercy on him, were Akachi's orders to me.
Gah, I'm going to make him pay for that. And while I do this, Watson and Emily are out having fun together. Ugh, you really owe me for this one, Watson!
We really do.
Achoo!
Are you alright, Watson?
Yeah, I think someone's just talking about me behind my back. Anyway, let's keep going.
Mm-hmm. We kept walking, making our way to the place where Colonel Morin had supposedly been disappearing. The red brick walls were covered in mud from years of rain and wind, and the surrounding area was deathly quiet.
A lot of this area is church land, but it only takes one bad turn to end up down a dodgy alley with drug sellers and thieves. Stay close to me. If you notice anything, tell me right away.
All right. Eventually, we found ourselves at a dead end. The wall before us rose high into the sky and was covered in mud.
This wall sure is tall. I can't imagine anyone being able to climb up here without a lot of difficulty. If the ghost in that story is actually a living person, I wonder how they've been disappearing here.
I started to carefully look around. As I tried following the sun's rays, however... I could have sworn I just saw a glint of light in the corner of the wall. Watson, look! The gap between these two bricks seems to be shining somehow.
You're right. There's a strange smell, too. Is this oil?
Maybe it's paint of some kind. Paint mixed to be the same color as the mud, or mud mixed with the solvent?
You might be right. With the alleyway being this dark, no one would notice the difference. Step back for a second.
After a light stretch, Watson put his hands on the wall. He took a breath and then pushed hard upon it. A staircase? It leads underground. Pushing the thin stone wall backwards revealed an old narrow staircase leading downwards. Cold air blew out of it, feeling chilly on our skin.
I'm going to investigate where it leads to.
I'm coming with you. If Colonel Morin has used this staircase, it might lead to somewhere related to Spellbound. We might be able to find something.
Sorry, but I really don't think...
Please! I won't get in your way. I'm not going to let myself get captured again either.
Then just promise me two things. 1, that you won't leave my side. 2, that if you notice anything at all strange, you'll tell me right away. Do you promise?
Yes. We slowly began to descend the staircase, trying to keep both our footsteps and our breathing as quiet as possible. With every step, we could feel the cold air permeating our skin. Eventually, we noticed light flickering on the other side of the darkness. I can hear something coming from inside. The voices gradually grew louder and clearer as we advanced. Then... I was wondering if it was going to be this picture. It sounds like the intonation for some kind of spell. Well, I mean, they are spellbound. Watson and I peered out from behind a pillar. Before us, we could see a disturbing magic circle on the floor and a group of suspiciously dressed men around it. They all wore black robes, the hoods pulled down so far that we couldn't see their faces. The whole area had an eerie aura about it.
Please grant us power. Grant your crimson guidance to us. At the end of our suffering, grant us eternal honor and blessings. Where there is light, there is also shadow. The chosen blood shall enrich the darkness before becoming the foundation of our nation.
Chosen blood? Our nation? The air was chilly, and before I knew it, I was clutching my shoulders because of the cold. I feel like I've heard these words somewhere before. But where?
What is it, Emily?
No, it's nothing. He looked at me uneasily, and I gently shook my head. I then turned my gaze back to the circle on the floor, but... They've... gone?
What? When?
We couldn't believe our eyes. The robed men who were there before were now nowhere to be seen. Uneasily, we looked around, but there was no sign that the men had even been there. After exchanging glances with one another, Watson threw a pebble in the direction of the circle. We could hear the sound of the pebble hitting the ground, but it was followed by only silence.
Where could they have disappeared to? They all just vanished in an instant. There's no way they're ghosts. They had to have gone somewhere.
There must be another secret passage connected to here. Shaking off the chilly feeling that hung over me, I approached the magic circle. The red paint that had been used to make it was so vividly colored that it was clearly visible even in the darkness.
I'll make a record of the design of the circle, too. I'm always doing things like this when I'm investigating with Holmes.
Watson set about drawing the circle in his notebook. While he was doing that, something shiny caught my eye. What could that be? Maybe it's something that group left behind? I put on a pair of gloves and cautiously walked over to it. It glistened like a crystal. When I picked it up, though, I realized that it wasn't especially hard. It's not a jewel. Maybe it's a crystal of some kind? Hey, Watson, I found this at the side of that magic circle. What? I couldn't finish what I was saying. Huh? My sense of balance didn't feel right. Strange colors were flashing before my eyes. My breathing was ragged and my heart beating unusually fast. I could barely stay standing up. No, not another attack! After my parents' death, I had occasionally suffered from pseudo-seizures. Oh, well that's not good. They had gradually disappeared during the years I had lived in the countryside, though, and not one had occurred since I came to London. I had almost forgotten that I ever suffered from them. All of a sudden, my mind was filled with red. A knife with blood dripping from it, and a great red stain expanding across the carpet. There, lying on the floor, was... No. Why? Why now? I was drawn into the scene that had been burned into my brain. No matter how many times I tried to talk, no sound came from my mouth.
What is it, Emily?
What? I didn't even know whether my voice had reached him. Before I knew it, my consciousness had slipped from me. The wind was strong that night. I awoke to the sound of something strange mixed in with that wind. I was wondering if the chanting she heard was connected with her parents' murder, and it seems like that may be the case. Feeling uneasy, I hurried to my parents' room. I was sure that seeing their faces would calm me down. But when I arrived at the door, it was already open slightly. Timidly, I opened it further and peered inside. My father was lying motionless on the floor. My mother had a knife piercing her chest, deep red blood gushing out of her wound. The sight of them covered in blood caused me to freeze to the spot.
Chosen blood, enrich our nation.
Someone was inside the room. I wanted to run away, but my body wouldn't do what I wanted it to. Before long, the mansion was engulfed in flames. My memories, my family, were all engulfed in the flames, leaving only me behind. That's right. It was then that... The newspapers had reported that my parents' deaths were due to the fire. Yet I knew that wasn't the case, and it was to find out the truth that I had returned to London. Yet... Does this have something to do with their murder? Why am I didn't want to remember anymore. I didn't want to see anything. I didn't want to be hurt anymore. Before I knew it, my inner weakness was taking control. I felt so pitiful that my chest began to hurt. I can't give up. Not until I know the truth behind what happened that day. I cast away my fear and my dependency on others so I could find it out. I had told myself that over and over again since I was a child. I'd always tried to ignore the scars that what happened had left behind. But now...
You don't need to thank me. I just can't stand back and do nothing when you're scared. But I want to become stronger. Strong enough that you can feel completely at ease relying on me. Much stronger than I am now. So whenever you need me, you just call right on me. If there's anything I can do to help you, I'll be right there to do it.
All of a sudden, I felt something small and hard in my tightly clenched fist. I slowly unclenched it, and there was his ring that I had traded for my own. Watson. As I looked at it, shining in my hand, the name of my beloved Watson left my lips. My voice was weak and frail, like that of a lost child.
Thank goodness! You're awake!
The first thing I saw was a pair of warm brown eyes. Watson? My voice was hoarse. Watson nodded repeatedly to me, still looking concerned. I could gradually feel a sense of weight returning to my body. I was leaning against him.
Oh, you're up! That's a big relief.
Ryan,
To tell you the truth, we've been watching this area for a while. Churches end up becoming hotbeds for crime surprisingly often. People who aren't sure what to do often end up taking the wrong path after all. I never thought that you would end up getting here first, though. But only barely. We did have an idea what was going on. Then why didn't you do something about it sooner?
Sergeant, I think they deserve to know the truth. That no one wanted to do anything because of that ghost rumor.
That was just you lot. I'm not afraid of ghosts. If I was to avoid a job for something like that, I'd be more afraid of Inspector Lestrade's fists. You've heard that a large amount of elixir was seized in Battersea, haven't you? The elixir that we discovered here comes from the same source.
elixir? You don't mean...
Yeah, the crystal that you found. It was very pure elixir, too. Ordinarily, you have to actually use elixir for it to have an effect. But pure crystals have been known to turn to gas, too. That's why they're so dangerous. You can end up receiving its effects passively, like you just did.
I see. So that wasn't an attack.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble.
Never mind that. How do you feel? You aren't in pain, are you?
I'm fine. I'm just feeling a little weak. Never mind me. What happened to those men in the robes? Judging by the words that they were chanting, there was a possibility they could be connected in some way to my parents' murders. Knowing that, I couldn't suppress my own impatience and tried to stand up, but...
Sorry, Emily. But I don't believe you're fine at all.
But... Before I knew it, he had drawn me into his arms.
Your breathing's weak, you're freezing cold. There's no way you're fine!
I'm... sorry. The words that I had suppressed pierced my chest.
Watson told us about what happened here. Scotland Yard is currently working on trying to find where those robed men could have gone. Right now, you need to rest. Please, leave the rest to us.